Hi and welcome. This is an analysis of the War Wound story by News Sydney. The package was aired on the 18th of August. It runs from 9:48 to 12:15 within the news bulletin, and when opening, it's the third story briefed over, but the fifth story to be part of the program.
It's 50 years since Australia ended its involvement in the Vietnam War. It was a conflict that divided families and the community and left returning troops ostracised. In marking the milestone, the New South Wales RSL issued an apology over its treatment of Vietnam veterans.
While the news presenter's introduction is quite lengthy, it gives important information that offers the main points of the story, so this is important for those that are unable to watch the story and only catch her.
50 years from the day Australia left the conflict in Vietnam, an apology.
When veterans needed the League the most, the RSL community in New South Wales let them down. For those injustices and for our misjudgment, we are sorry.
This is the first important grab. It's from Ray James, the RSL New South Wales president, giving his formal apology to returned Vietnam soldiers.
In Sydney, the cenotaph ringed by Vietnam veterans and 52 Vietnam War widows, each laying a white rose half a century on. When our troops left the conflict, for many, the hostilities continued. There were demonstrations, they were ostracised, and at some RSL branches, they were turned away.
That experiences back then still, from time to time, repeats on me, and I know it does on others.
This archive footage is able to ensure the audience realises the climate around the Vietnam War, along with how large the negative response to these returned soldiers was.
It was quite opposite to what we expected. It was even worse because we were forbidden for wearing our uniforms ashore.
The Vietnam War involved some 60,000 Australian personnel. 523 of them, tragically, would lose their lives, and more than 3,000 were wounded. Of the thousands who did return home unharmed, their battles would continue.
The journalist Lizzie Pearl uses two more grabs, this being Commander Peter Watson, a returned Vietnam vet, as well as archived footage of rallies around the Vietnam War, when speaking of them, along with how the soldiers were ostracised.
In the national capital, another step in the healing of old war wounds. Applause for the veterans who bore the brunt of a brutal war and a political conflict back home.
Not a day goes by that I don't think about Vietnam, and I think the main reason for that is the way we were treated when we came home.
We honour you, we thank you, and we are sorry that as a nation it took so long for us as a nation to do so.
The last word from little Patty, who delighted the troops in the war zone more than 50 years ago and again today.
What a wonderful world.
Lizzie Pearl, 9 News.
The story is beautifully put together. The grabs, archived footage, and general visual all work together really well as matching the story that Lizzie Pearl wrote. The elements included throughout her story work together to create a captivating story. All the pieces that she used, the visuals, the way she wrote her story, and the elements of newsworthiness that they had, really created a beautifully put together story.